I mean, for me, spirituality is simply what is yet unseen.
Greetings, intrepid explorers of the extraordinary and uncharted realms of existence. I'm your host, CJ, and welcome to Supernormalized, the podcast where we challenge the conventional, break through boundaries, and endeavor to make the supernatural the new normal. My mission here at Supernormalized is to dispel the shroud of mystery cloaking the so-called supernatural, inviting you to open your minds, expand your consciousness, and embrace the fascinating wonders of our universe that often remain unexplored. Are you a torchbearer of the unusual knowledge, or have you had a unique story that you'd like to share with the world? I would love to hear from you. Reach out to me directly at supernormalized@proton.me and become part of my mission to normalize the supernatural. Today, we're thrilled to be in the company of an extraordinary guest, Lynnda Pollio, a trailblazer in the realm of human consciousness. Lynnda wears many hats: consciousness doula, multi-award-winning author, thought leader, and the world's first chief consciousness officer at a global futurist marketing consultancy. Through her best-selling visionary novel, Trusting the Currents, Lynnda invites us into an enthralling world of conscious awareness. As an accomplished New York advertising executive, she has demonstrated her dedication to elevating human consciousness, applying her expertise to forge new paths in conscious business and communication practices. Lynnda's journey is as varied as it is rich, with experience spanning multiple spiritual disciplines, energetic practices, and healing modalities. She's a master at helping individuals understand and connect to energetic frequencies that catalyze self-awareness and foster both personal and global transformation. It's in her belief that we are all on a path to become something unexpected. Lynnda champions the power of the heart as the source we seek, and as an empath, INFP, and HSP, she brings a deeply intuitive and compassionate perspective to her work. Today, she joins us from the vibrant landscape of Sedona, Arizona, after leaving the bustling heart of New York City in her current endeavor. Lynnda is crafting her first live online workshop series, Wisdom Keeping, designed to support those stepping into a new consciousness. Lastly, before we start, if you enjoy journeying with me, the best way to support Supernormalized is to help me reach more conscious minds like yours. So, dear listener, I personally invite you to fire up your favorite podcast app, hit up that 5-star rating, and let the algorithms know that this is a conversation worth sharing. Now sit back, tune in, dear listeners, embrace yourselves for a journey into the depths of human consciousness as we delve into the world of Lynnda Pollio, a pioneer in making the supernatural supernormalized. Let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Lynnda.
Thank you, CJ. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm happy to be connecting to you from across the world.
Yeah, excellent. So where should we start with this? I mean, I've got to ask you, what is a consciousness doula in your own words?
Well, the reason I tend to have always called myself things that I believe need to exist on the planet that may not exist yet. Ooh. And I think I started when I was a child calling myself things that didn't exist. And then even when I created the role of a chief consciousness officer in corporate America, that didn't exist at this time. And I really worked at trying to normalize having consciousness as part of the business model, because my feelings was just as when digital technologies came onto the planet and was all these different energies and all these weird people talking about this new technology that was coming in that no one really understood. And the people that were odd were sitting in their garages and their attics, and then they started speaking to each other and created businesses and created their own language, their own computer language, which then allowed the technologies of the digital world to kind of become more expansive. And eventually corporations had to hire a new function called the chief technology officer, someone who understood these new technologies coming onto the planet and how to
Yes.
navigate them to their consumers and to their employees and to their different business partners. So I feel and I felt that as the world was changing and the transformation that we're going through was just beginning, that we needed to really understand and engage what I call the human technologies of wisdom, intuition, compassion, empathy, forgiveness, and gratitude, and start bringing those into corporate mainstream culture. So just as the chief technology officer was hired, I wanted to create a position within corporations called the chief consciousness officer, who would bring these technologies, these subtle technologies, because digital technologies are more masculine, they're external, whereas human technologies are really feminine. They're very subtle, they're internal. So you have to be more sensitive to feeling them. So someone who understood what these technologies are would help. So I created the title because I wanted it to exist on the planet. And even when I started it and I started working with an advertising, working in social, conscious business practices, people would say, well, why can't you call yourself a chief culture officer or chief something officer? And I said,
it's not
well,
the
if you
same.
can't say if you can't say the word consciousness, you can't be it. So it had to be a word that made its way into our lexicon. And so my next thing was, as I got further, I sort of moved away from business to a large degree and really started working with people that were beginning to awaken to the idea that the world that they thought they would be inhabiting is not really the world. What is reality? What is energy? What are frequencies? How are we connected and interconnected to each other and to everything on the planet and to the cosmos? And I felt the only way to do that was to help people birth their own consciousness. And a doula is well known for being someone who births babies. A doula means birthing. So doulas have been around for a long time, helping mothers birth babies. And in the last few years, death doulas have come onto the scene, helping people to understand death in a more profound way. Because if we can change our relationship with death, we can change our relationship with life. So death doulas are there to help birth people through the death process and their families. And I just felt like it was time that we really took consciousness to that kind of level. And my whole goal in life for the rest of my life is to help people who are awakening birth their own consciousness so they can find their own inner resonance signature and get into their own wisdom and be able to create life from that inner space instead of letting the outside world dictate who they become.
Yes. Wow. Well, I'm all for that for sure. That's brilliant. I think we need more of those consciousness officers in.
We need more. We need more conscious people, and we need more people that are willing to go inside their inner universe, because our inner universe is as expansive as our outer universe, but we are not shown how to go in there. In fact, we are told that it's a scary place, and because our heart holds so much trauma from past lives and from our ancestral traumas and from our childhood traumas, it's not a comfortable place for people to venture inside. We don't like going places that are in the unknown. And that's the only way you get into consciousness, is by taking those leaps into the unknown. So, being helped by having community around you, friends around you, books, courses, podcasts, things that make you feel that you're not alone, because becoming conscious is a fairly solitary experience in the beginning. I'm not sure why that is, but most people that begin to awaken are usually around people that don't understand what they're experiencing. And they don't really have anyone to talk to, and they begin to think that they're going crazy. So it's really helpful to be able to find your communities, whether they're online or whether they're in your own local area, and find the people that you can actually be vulnerable with and start communicating about maybe some unusual experiences that you're having, or some feelings that you're having about what you're being told in the world that you feel maybe is not the truth. So that's I think that is kind of the crux of my focus on being a consciousness doula now.
Yeah. No, it seems like that most of society isn't really. I mean, this is something which is falling away. I mean, the control of consciousness, the control of the connection to, I would even say the connection to the infinite, which is actually a natural state that we all have. But we're allowed, we get blinded by distraction continuously and told that anything outside of the norm is not right, which is really bizarre, because when you do connect
Right.
yourself to the infinite and to the power of infinite love, the power of infinite consciousness, that you can transcend all of these fears that plague us in everyday life. And that's a very commendable thing to be doing for sure. And as I said before, I think everyone really does need a chief consciousness officer in their organizations, because then that would mean people like us would actually be able to do more things to help more people. Yeah,
exactly. Well, we're kind of on the other side of the window. I mean,
yes.
the main world is still running as it always has been, and I don't think that's going to change. I think that most of us that are on this side of the window have come to terms with the fact that we're not going to change the minds of anyone who doesn't want to look at this, and that's fine. I mean, that's not their role in this life.
That's right.
If you're part of this consciousness transformation, you know it, and you really get further and further away from the mainstream. And what we're trying to do here is build something stronger and better and more meaningful and more interconnected than what we're leaving. It doesn't mean what we're leaving was bad or wrong. It just, this is the evolution of consciousness. As you become more conscious, you start seeing things differently.
Yeah, that's right. It's normal to see things differently, and it's actually, it is a comfort to actually have people around you that are able to see it. Although I must say that for quite a long time, I would upgrade, and then people around me were like, "You're totally nuts." They don't get it. But then what?
It's not easy.
10 years down the line, you jump in a cab and somebody's saying the same thing you were saying, 15, 20 years ago. It's like, oh, it's normal now. Okay,
exactly. So if you've been on this road time, I mean, I always call consciousness like Russian dolls, because those Russian stacking dolls, because when you're in the smallest one, you think that that's the only thing there is, and then you break out of that doll and you go into the next doll and you go, oh my God, I didn't know this before. I didn't know this about myself. I didn't know this about the world. I'm beginning to see things differently. And then you just get comfortable in that Russian doll, and all of a sudden you have another expansion of consciousness. And then you can see that where you were was not really the absolute truth either. And I don't think that we ever get to a time in our lives where we get to the end of the process. I think life is the process.
Yes.
And I think it's just a matter of how far down the road do you want to go and are capable of going to explore your own consciousness before we move on to whatever's over there.
Right.
But it really is it's very adventurous. It's an explorer and an adventurer. So it's really not for the faint of heart.
No, it definitely requires a curiosity, and I would phrase it as a sense of ongoing transcendence. Like one of the trances that you previously had ends, and you go on to the next one, and on and on and on as you expand in your understanding of these now. So what is it like to unexpectedly channel a multi-award-winning Amazon bestseller and in inspirational fiction? How did that happen? And what did that mean for you at the time?
Well, that's actually a good question. It's been life-changing. Not that I knew it was going to be life-changing. And I think that's something that anyone who's out there who starts hearing little voices in their head or starts being pulled into directions that they didn't expect to go, we're always asked if we want to take that road or not. And you could say no if it's too scary or if you're too busy. But if you say yes, you will end up going to places that you never expected to be. And I've gotten my whole life, as we were talking earlier, that, we've both been on this path since we were born, I think, having different kinds of experiences and being told that we were a little nuts, but, putting it aside, I put it aside for a long time when I was, growing up, going to school and getting into business, but then it just came, roaring back. And I've gotten what I would consider high knowledge channeled to me my whole life. I would just know things, and I would be speaking to someone, I would get information about them. So that was a very normal experience for me, but it was always sort of in my own voice. It wasn't another voice. And this was the first time I was sitting in my apartment in New York. I was still in New York at the time, and I was working on a consulting project in conscious business practices. And all of a sudden I heard a Southern Black woman's voice just say to me, "It's not what happened to me that matters." And it was a very powerful, strong, independent, singular voice.
Yes.
And it kind of freaked me out in the beginning. So I just wrote down that sentence on my computer, and then I just sat there, and then she kept talking for another couple paragraphs, and I kept writing it down. And then she went away, and I went, okay, that's weird, but fine. And I went back to work. And then 3 or 4 days later, I'm working on something else, and she came back again. And over a few week period, she just would pop in every once in a while, and she always picked up where she left off. So the channeling of the book was all stream of consciousness. I never knew what I was writing until I was writing it. So I never knew where the story was going until I was actually telling the story right then.
Yes.
And it took me but I had to say yes to her, because saying yes to her meant leaving some things behind that I was working on, and leaving some work that I had to do behind, and just listening to her. So I had to accept it felt like a covenant to me. I had to accept the covenant of telling her story. So it took me about 2 years to channel her story. And it started in New York for several months. And then she told me to go back to Sedona, because I had been going back and forth to Sedona since after my father died.
Yeah.
When I heard a voice say, go to Sedona. So she said, go back to Sedona. And I spent the last 9 months channeling the rest of the book in Sedona. And it has a lot of nature in the book. And that all was part of my experiences in Sedona. So after 9 months, I wrote the last words of the book, and she left. I felt her energy leave me. And
Yes.
I never heard her voice again in the same way. But I went back to New York, and I was completely whacked from channeling this very heavy Southern dialect Black woman's voice for 2 years. And as you can tell, I'm neither Black nor Southern. So it was a very unusual experience for me. And it kind of screwed with my head a little bit. So I went back to New York, and I had to go back to work, and I put the book away for a year, and I never expected to go back to it. And I had to go back to work. I had to readjust my energy again to being in the real world and not in this channeling experience. And I went back to consulting, and about a year later, she came back and said, it's time to start editing. And so it took me 8 years
Wow.
to edit the book, because I had no idea what I was doing. I had no faith in myself being able to do this. She just cajoled and cajoled and cajoled me over time. And I won't go into the long, crazy story behind it, but it finally came out after 8 years of editing. And I decided to self-publish, because I thought, who is going to publish a first-time spiritual novelist by a middle-aged white woman about a Black Southern girl? I said, I saw the irony in that.
Yes.
So I self-published it. It took me a while, and I was in the midst of taking care of my mother at the time. I took care of my mother for 9 years, for 24/7, and the editing of that and the publishing of that came through at that point in time. So I was in a very altered state in many ways during that period of my life. But the book came out, and it spoke to people. It's won 13 literary awards.
Wow.
And it was the #1 Amazon bestseller in inspirational fiction, and the reviews are unbelievable. She really, her name is Addie Mae Aubrey, and she really touches people no matter who they are. The book is sold all over the world, different cultures, different religions, different races. Brilliant. And I think as people read her story, she tells you your own story. So many people find their own voice in her voice.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. And so this being that you were channeling, did you ever find her life story in reality, or was she purely a channeled entity?
I don't, I'm also a conscious skeptic. I believe in what I think we all live in our belief systems. I think
Yeah.
consciousness is such a huge thing. Whatever
Yes.
consciousness is, it is within our, we don't have the ability to comprehend what consciousness is. Our brains can't do that. So I think what our brains do is they create belief systems, even around spirituality and consciousness, that our minds can manage. So,
Yes.
and we create little nests. We create nests of reality within these little, consciousness belief systems that we create. So in my conscious belief system, I mean, she was named, Aubrey came to me right away. The reason she was named Addie Mae was not, but a year after I was channeling her, I could not get her first name. She kept changing it. And I knew I was waiting for something, but I didn't know what. And it was the anniversary of the Birmingham church bombings in the states here in the South that killed 4 little girls. And it was a big civil rights thing, and it was
Yes.
awful. And one of the little girls that was murdered was named Addie Mae Collins, and it happened to be the anniversary of the Birmingham church bombings.
Yes.
So I was watching television, and I saw the images of the 4 little girls, and as soon as I saw Addie Mae Collins, I knew that was her name. So I changed her name to Addie Mae, and for the rest of the time I wrote the book, I had Addie Mae Collins' picture taped to my computer. And I don't think it was Addie Mae Collins, because of timing, and plus she never really grew up. I mean, she died when she was, I don't know, 14 years old, 12, 13, yes. 14 years old. So, but it was just this sense of honoring that energy and honoring all those 4 little girls' energy, giving them a life that they didn't have. And Addie Mae Aubrey, who's the narrator of Trusting the Currents, is an amazing woman, an amazing human being. So, and then, I was told later by different psychics, that she was someone that I had been in a past life with in New Orleans. And so, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, she could have been just, I always used to ask her, like, why me? It seemed to me, I wasn't a writer. I wasn't Black. I wasn't from the South. I wasn't looking to channel anything. I mean, I was just a very unnatural choice for her. And she would say that's exactly why, to show what 2 women that share the same compassionate spirit can accomplish when they come together. And to also show that, we want to celebrate our differences, where we come from. We don't have the luxury of all these differences. We get to be different colors and different races and different personalities and genders. And to our souls, I think our souls find it quite exciting, because wherever we go back to, we probably are pretty much our different energies than we are in this life. So I think that was to sort of help people understand that it's a gift, these differences that we share, and that we shouldn't spend too much time or energy, fighting about it. And so that was, so I don't really know who she was. I've never heard her voice again in the same way. I used to hear her laugh at me. She always found fear very funny. And every time I was afraid, I would hear her laughing at me.
Odd.
She thought fear was hysterical.
Maybe
it's like, why?
Maybe she's seen a lot of fear, and she's
like, what?
Transcended it, or she can see the outcome in me. See, there's nothing else.
I think it was more like, I think it was more like, fear is just, this, you're not going to pay attention to this when you're over. This is all part of the fun of life. When you get back, these things are going to be it's really about the experiences that we're given in life. And the soul does not decide whether, one is good and one is bad. The soul celebrates every experience it has, because it's still life. So I think that, she found fear so funny, because it would be something that I would probably honor when I leave this planet and I go back and go, that was really fun. That was something that, my human body was not real happy about, but I can see now.
Yeah,
so
you can see her
I think that,
then.
that was my interpretation of it anyway.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, if you're living outside of time and you can see all events, past, present, future, maybe you could look at fear and go, you might as well enjoy that where you can. Because when you're on the other side, it's like, that's just trivia by comparison. So
we don't know. We don't know what's there. We don't know whether when we leave, we go, oh man, the times that I was suffering were
Yeah.
actually the most exciting for my soul. We just
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And,
We don't know. That's true.
we have our own interpretation. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had some contact with a spirit similar to what you've had, but it didn't channel a book. Mine was more like a guidance sort of thing, and she made a good impact on my life, and she did come, and then she did leave at just the right time when she said, "This is it. This is all we're doing." And I couldn't believe that she could leave
Yeah.
and everything would change so dramatically when it did. And I lost a lot of the extra power and understanding and connection that I had felt through having that. So I was
Yeah,
going
I
to ask
understand that.
you. Yeah, I was going to
That
ask you.
happened to me too.
Yeah, right. So did one of the things that I had was a yearning to connect with her again over time, and every now and then she'd pop in just as a light voice saying, "Oh, I'm still here," but I'm not. She's not to that level because she did what she did. She's already done her work. So I was going to ask you, has she actually dropped back in at all to say hello or connect with you in any way since?
I mean, not in the same way. Like I said, I have never heard her voice again.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel, I think she comes more as an impulse, and
Okay.
the impulse generally is always around the book because she wants me to keep it out there because it really does help people go through very difficult times and help people that are going through their own awakening to understand the process that they're undertaking. And this may be, it's her story, but it's everyone's story. So she comes across as impulse when I get lazy or whether I get busy, and she goes, okay, you need to pay attention to me again, and you need to help me get more of my words out there again. So I think that was her. But when she left, I kind of went back to my normal life, but I have had similar experiences. I didn't have a huge shift in my energy field when she left, except that I felt her gone because she had been gone for many years in that way while I was editing the book.
Yeah.
I
Right.
felt like, in fact, when I first channeled the book, I wouldn't even put my name on the book. I said, by Addie Mae Aubrey is told to Lynnda Pollio. It wasn't until I spent 8 years editing the book that I felt any sense of connection to the book.
Right.
So then I can put my name on it.
Yeah.
So then it was mine. And then she allowed me to take control of the book because I had put the work in.
Mm.
But I've had other experiences with being connected to other energies that I don't know who they were, but they were very light and they were very big, and
Mm.
they made my life go into different directions, and it was really fun and it was very mystical. I've had a lot of tremendously mystical experiences in my life, which I think tends to happen particularly at the beginning of a journey because it's almost like they're sucking you into, oh yeah, this is happening, but it doesn't stay.
Right.
And what happens is when it goes away, you think you've done something wrong because you don't have that same connection to these high level etheric frequencies that make you feel so good and that make everything seem so magical around you. And you have to go back to being human again, which
Mm.
is not as much fun
That's right.
as
Yeah, it
being
can be.
as being as being mystical.
That's true. Sorry, I just had a cough there.
Bless you.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, yeah, I can say that I've experienced that too. With connection to different sort of beings and entities over time, and yeah, the ones that I've had have been mostly beneficial, but there have been also challenging ones that have stepped in to try and make my life a bit messy. But with the right guidance, I also got out of those situations with other beings, which was completely surprising and
Well,
also unexpected.
they come too. They come too, and the difficult part is discerning.
Yeah, that's right.
When you
That's right.
step on the path of consciousness, you really have to start becoming way discerning because even the negative energies that will come to you could come across as trying to help you, or they could be feeding your ego in some way,
Mm.
telling you that you're this or you're that, or you're the next coming of Jesus or whatever it is.
Oh yeah, the
And
messianic ones. Yeah,
they're
yeah.
really Yeah, they're really feeding your ego. And if they
Yes.
feed your ego, they're probably not there for your highest good.
Right.
The ones that are there for your highest good are there just to help you explore yourself and be open to yourself and find a little bit of courage to move, to sort of move forward into the unknown. And then
Yeah,
they'll leave you because eventually you have to do it yourself.
that's
And
right.
then sometimes other ones come in and sometimes they don't, or they're there and we just don't know.
Mm, mm.
So it's a long and winding road to be on this path.
Oh, for sure, for sure, for sure. And yeah, it's good to be conscious of where you are and how you deal with those beings, definitely. So I should step on another question here and see how we can go up from here, which is what is consciousness and why is it important to understand and engage?
Well, the fast and easy answer is we have no idea what consciousness is. And so
Yes.
again, we are working within our own belief systems based on like my perception of consciousness is based on my belief system, based on my experience, my life experience, my knowledge, everything that I have taken in that resonated with me. I mean, consciousness is very much all about finding resonance. And finding resonance, I call it your inner resonance signature, which is that one frequency that is yours alone, because we are mostly formed by external frequencies that are telling us who we are, whether it's our family unit, whether it's our culture, whether it's our schools, whether it's the media or governments or religions. They try to decide who we are. And we become like an onion. Or inner resonance signature just gets covered with different layers of social conditionings. But if we can get back to that inner resonance signature, that one sort of note cellular song that is ours alone, then we can start creating our life from that place. And consciousness is the ability to find that one note within you. And I mean, I believe consciousness could be God. Consciousness is just this space where everything exists, and everything we are is coming out of consciousness.
Mm,
So it's a kind of a hairy thing, but I do look at it having multiple layers,
yes.
and everyone is in a layer of consciousness. I mean, trees have consciousness, rocks have consciousness, the stars have consciousness, the planets have consciousness. They may have different kinds of consciousness because our consciousness are coming through our human bodies,
Yes.
but yeah, I mean, consciousness is just everything. It's everything we are. And it's important to explore consciousness because that's when you own yourself. That's when
Mm,
you know your own wisdom. That's when you can start making your own decisions for yourself.
mm,
That's when it becomes important that you know the people around you. Are they supporting you? Are they trying to hold you back from exploring different parts of yourself that you see emerging, but you're a little afraid of, and you don't have anyone around you that can help you explore that. So yeah, I mean, I'm a consciousness doula. For me, everything is consciousness. Life is consciousness, and life is about the exploration of consciousness. And everything that comes out of consciousness is like the fertile soil that all the flowers and the trees and the birds and humans, everything grows out of consciousness. So the more we can cultivate and fertilize our consciousness, we become more aware. And for me, consciousness is all about moving into your heart, because consciousness doesn't necessarily have to be heart-based. It's
mm,
just awareness.
yes.
Consciousness is merely awareness. But for it to be valuable to humans, it needs to come through the heart,
Mm,
because we want to have good experiences in our lives. We want to feel love. We want to feel compassion. We want to feel empathy. We want to feel our place in the world. We want to feel like we have a purpose and a meaning, and that all comes through the heart.
mm,
So it's really important that you cultivate your heart consciousness. And there are a lot of people that are helping people do that right now, because it's scary. We store a lot of trauma in our heart, and most of our trauma is completely unconscious. We don't even know it's there until we start reacting and responding to people that get us angry, or the guy that's driving too slow for us, and we start reacting. And then we realize that, oh, okay, it has nothing to do with the person we're mad at. This is our unconscious trauma that is trying to get our attention. And instead of us paying attention to what is inside of us and moving into that trauma and allowing ourselves to feel and find where that is and feel it, and maybe get some help in that, whether you want to go to a therapist, whether you want to go to a shaman, whether you want to work with plant medicines. I mean, there's many ways, whether you want to go into meditation, there's many ways to start cultivating that inner resident signature so that you can start working on your unconscious trauma so that you can get into your heart in a more meaningful way. And then your heart is open. And when your heart is open, all kinds of beautiful things come out of it, and all kinds of beautiful things come into it.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So that actually does cover the question I was going to ask, which was how do you shift from living from your head to your heart? So I think you've covered most of that there, just in that explanation.
Yeah, you have to just, I mean, your head is good for, you need to go left and not right.
Practical.
You need to, practical stuff.
Yes.
You shouldn't be making decisions based on your head. Your heart actually has a bigger energy field than your brain does. But we do not know how to use our heart, and we don't trust our heart, and all the external forces that are in our world are telling us that we can't trust our heart, that you have to trust your brain. So moving from your mind to your brain is really a leap of faith, and it's a really a leap into a new way of expressing your own life. And you have to be courageous. And what fuels courage is curiosity. There's nothing better for courage than curiosity. You just have to be curious about things. You don't just say no because it's never been done before, because you haven't done it before, because no one you've known been done it before. If that had been the case, Copernicus would have learned that we revolve around the sun and not the other way around. I mean, there have been heretics throughout time that have proven that the things that were believed in their time was not true. And I think there are many things like that now in consciousness and in the reality of who we are as human beings on this planet that we will discover in the next 10, 20, 30 years have nothing to do with the truth of who we really are. That we're really being kept in a sort of a matrix of control to a certain degree, and comfort. As long as you're comfortable, people are fine with not really exploring too far into themselves. But it's really when you become uncomfortable in life that you start exploring into unknown places. So suffering tends to be a real catalyst for change and transformation.
It doesn't have to be.
I don't think it has to be. But I think humans, they don't walk to the edge of anything unless they have to. Right. So there are some courageous souls. There are always pioneers out there that are, going out there and dying, freezing in the colds of the mountains because they went out, and then the settlers come in after them and go, okay, this is a lot easier than I thought. Well, it was easier because pioneers were there first.
Yes. So
it just depends on where you are. And, I don't think there's any right or wrong with where you are. If someone is listening to this right now and they think, we're crazy, that's perfectly fine. Because I look back at the different things that I believed over my life, and even things I believed 10 years ago that I was absolutely sure about are now things that I found out were not true.
Right.
So we have to have compassion and caring for everyone wherever they are in their process. You can't wake anyone up. You can only be there when they wake up and help guide them and help be the model for them to sort of stumble in their own way towards the future.
Yes. How do you trust the currents in life wherever they are taking you? Another one of your questions. That one too. That's good.
Yeah, I think you trust the currents in life because you have to. I think you get to a point in your life, and whether that's through suffering or because you're ready to just go to something different in your life, or you're being pushed in that direction, you just say, I'm going. And you trust yourself, you trust the universe, you trust that you are going in the direction you're supposed to be going. And even if you stumble along the way, because everyone stumbles along the way in this path. And I don't think there's ever a time. I mean, I will get to a place where I go, oh, I think I know this. And then I realize I don't know anything. And then I think the one thing I've learned from being on the consciousness path for so many decades is I don't really know anything. I only know what I know at the time. And that can change at any time. And we don't know why that is. But I think trusting the currents is a good way to live your life. And when I was writing the book, I actually had a different name for the book most of the time I was writing the book. And after I was just about to publish it, the book said, "This is not my name. You need another name." And I started crying. I went, "Oh no. I mean, this is like 10 years with this book. I can't now think of another name. I'm perfectly happy with the name I gave you." And it went, "No."
Nope.
And so I went, "Well, you're going to have to tell me your name because I'm not trying to figure out something else." And about a week later, Trusting the Currents popped into my head, and I read the book with that in mind. And I realized that that's exactly what the book was about, was trusting the currents in life, no matter where they're taking you, because you have to. Sometimes you have to because you have no choice. You're being drawn into an experience in life that you may not want to go, but you're going in. So you can either keep your hands on the wheel and drive and become conscious and alert and aware of what's happening to you, or you could sit in the back seat of your life screaming, not taking control of your life and yelling at everybody along the way. But it's an exciting ride, and we don't know where life is taking us. We have every expectation of what we want to go, but like I said, I believe that we're all in the process of becoming something unexpected, and that can be a wonderful, glorious thing, because most people are probably not super happy right now.
Yes. Yeah,
And you could be going in a direction which is way happier and way more expansive and way more alert and awake and aware and connected to things, and you feel better, and you experience more. So that's I think that's what you find by trusting the currents.
It's almost like a sort of Zen sort of state, in that instead of holding on to things, you let go and just let life be and live it.
You have to let go, and it doesn't mean that you don't worry, and it doesn't mean that you don't have emotions around it. I mean, the one big thing you have to learn when you are going through an awakening process is that you're going to have fear, and you're going to have all kinds of emotions that you don't want to have, but you can't hold on to them. You have to, as fast as you can, put yourself into a neutral space and just observe the emotions you're having, and then like allow them to come up and come out so that you can release them.
What are energetic frequencies, and how can we work with them?
Well, everything's an energetic frequency. Everything exists in our universe is an energetic frequency. We're all vibration. Everything is energy. That is not me speaking. That is Einstein. That is Tesla. That is every quantum physicist and religious scholar. And it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're on with that. We are all energy. The chair on the couch I'm sitting on right now is all frequencies. We're just perceiving it as solid for whatever reason. So energetic frequencies make up everything. And it's a matter of are those energetic frequencies resonating with you or not? So the things that resonate with you, you will be drawn to, and they make you feel good. The frequencies that are dissonant to you will make you feel bad. So that's why when you meet some people, you have this weird, I don't like you, or you have this weird, oh, I want to know you. And that's because your energy, your frequencies and their frequencies are either in resonance or in dissonance. When you're fighting with someone, you're in energetic dissonance. When you're in love with someone, you're in energetic resonance. So once you realize that everything is energetic, and you can go outside and you can sit under a tree and you can ask the tree to give you some of its energy, to give you some of its strength, to help clear some of the negativity that is in your body, because nature clears all of our negativity. Nature takes our carbon dioxide and turns it into oxygen. Nature takes our garbage, our real garbage, and turns it into flowers. So yeah, I mean, everything is energy. And once you're able to determine that, I'm very sensitive to energy. I feel everything. So I feel people. I'm very aware of trees. I'm very aware. I become hyper conscious of my environment and of the people and the different things that are in that environment.
Mm. So we're going through a world transition, and I know that you're experiencing it, I'm experiencing it, and probably a lot of
Yeah,
the
I think
listeners are
everyone's
experiencing it.
it.
But and even more so consciously. So we're all like, oh wow, it's things are getting
Yeah.
weirder, and it's seems to be ramping up continuously. So the current global transformation, what do you think we're going through? And do you have any messages for the audience about walking that transition consciously?
Well, this has been prophesized for millennia by
Mm,
every indigenous kind of culture out there, that we would be going through this time of transition. And again, there's different ways of looking at it. There are different prophecies that say we are going into we are very much in a polarization of frequency right now. And it's either right or wrong, good or bad, black or white, red or blue. And that polarization is creating tension. But we're also energetically ascending. I mean, there's all kinds of energetic frequencies coming off of the sun. There's all kinds of cosmic frequencies coming in. There's human resonance is off the chart. If you really look at any of that, you can see that there's so much going on an ethereal and energetic level that is shifting us. And the planet is changing. The planet is expanding. The planet is becoming more awake and aware as well.
yeah.
So as that happens, everything that is negative and everything that is dark is beginning to surface because it's beginning to clear. It's just like when you start becoming more focused on your unconscious trauma, the unconscious trauma comes up because it needs to come up. It's like a healing crisis. If you're going through a cleanse, you will probably get sick before the toxins that are in you leave your body, because that's a very normal thing. Is toxins have to come up and be experienced before they can finally be released. And I believe that that's been happening on our planet probably for decades now, because most of us that are part of this global transformation and aware of it have seen this, have felt this coming for a long time. And like I said, the indigenous tribes have talked about it. I mean, I live in Sedona, and the Hopis talked about this with their prophecy rock for many, many years ago. So it's it doesn't take a lot to look at the world and see that we're going through something really big.
Yes.
And it just depends on the way that you're experiencing it. Or you're experiencing it from a great degree of fear and anger, and confusion and hatred. And that is one side of the polarization, which is getting stronger and darker. And the other side is, okay, we're on the other side of this now, and it's more about, okay, how can we make things better? So people are moving into new ways of creating regenerative economies and regenerative agriculture and new kinds of communities, and looking at human technologies of wisdom, intuition, and wanting to go into their deepest inner universe and find out what's in there and explore who they really could be, once they get past all the social conditioning. And so you have that side of it, which is the side that we're on. But it's a conscious choice. And
Yes.
I truly don't believe one side is bad or good. I think it just is. I
Yes.
think it's better for us if more people want to do good things and want to find people to resonate with and care about and support and sacrifice for, because I think the place that we're trying to get to is quite beautiful and way more human than we're living right now. And of course, now we're going to the world of AI, which is another whole bipolarization of AI versus organics. So, there's so much going on. It's, you really have to just kind of tap into your own self and where you are in the process, because we're all at different places. I mean, I personally think we're all living our own little universes. So my universe is different than your universe. So you could very well be having a different experiences than I'm having. So I could think something is the truth, and you could think something is the truth, and maybe they're both the truth. Why do we think there's only one truth? Why can't more than one person be true? Because they're having the experience of truth. And I think the best way to navigate this is by being in a neutral space, by finding ways into your heart, by allowing people to have their belief systems and not attacking them and telling them they're crazy, on either side, and putting all of your energies into building something that is beautiful and new. And it's probably going to take decades. I mean, there's so much talk about there's be a bipolarization of the earth. The earth will split into two. I don't know. I like that idea, but I don't know that that's going to happen. I think most likely we are seeing a long progression of how life is going to be transformed. But, consciousness is a spiral and it only goes up. So we are on the spiral of consciousness up. So it's inevitable that our planet become more conscious. It's just that how long does it take, and what kind of suffering and what kind of collapse will we have to navigate before that happens. And the more people that are willing to go, okay, I'm going to move into my heart. I'm going to trust that maybe there's something new coming into my life. I'm going to help support people that I can support. I have some extra money. Maybe I'll help the person that doesn't have money. I have some extra time. Maybe I'll help my neighbor that needs some time. I have some skills and some talents that someone I know could really use, and I could take a little bit of time away from my life. I think once we get away from that self-protective mechanism and we start really connecting to them ourselves and find that we're all little pieces of the puzzle, and the things that I'm good at, maybe I can help you, and maybe the things I'm terrible at, maybe you can help me with. And that's really the idea of collaboration and coalescence. We're really about how are we going to coalesce together in a more meaningful way, and find ways to kind of expand and elevate our own humanity. We don't want to become robots. But we also need to become more conscious humans, because we haven't done a good job on the planet, and we haven't done a good job with each other. So we wouldn't be looking at it if we weren't scared and suffering right now.
Yeah, it does sound like a call towards conscious community, which would be pretty much where we
Conscious
are right
community.
now.
I mean, we all have to know each other, because there are people listening to your podcast right now who are sitting somewhere and they're having these little moments. Maybe they're having mystical experiences or synchronicities that they've never had before. And they're going, oh, what's that? And maybe it's scaring them. Maybe they're telling people about it and people are telling them that they're crazy. Maybe they're feeling very isolated and lost and alone because they think they're failures. They think they don't know what they're doing. They think they don't fit in, but maybe that's a good thing. They don't fit in, because who wants to be well adjusted to a maladjusted culture?
That's right. I think that's a reasonable
That's
response.
why it's important, that community. Exactly. You're having a reasonable response to an unreasonable experience.
That's right.
But we're told that you're supposed to fit in. So that's why conscious community is really important right now, and finding people that allow you to stumble and bumble and be vulnerable. When one person's vulnerable, it's a very strong sense of weakness. But when two people start sharing their vulnerability, it's the beginning of strength. And the more people that share their vulnerabilities and their fears, the more strength is created from that. I mean, that's where real family is formed. That's where real teams are formed. That's where a real community is formed.
That sounds wonderful, and also possible. And I think it is actually happening already.
It is happening. It's just happening in small spaces. I mean, those of us that are doing this, we really, it's everything to us, but we are a very small percentage of people on the planet. And so all we can do is do the work that we're here to do and model it ourselves.
Yeah.
And, try to help each other not feel like we're nuts, because no matter how long you've been on this road, there are moments you go, I am completely out of my mind. Why am I not normal? And then all of a sudden you realize why you're not normal, because you're not supposed to be normal to this world. You're supposed to be creating the new world.
Yes. Well, when I was going through that stage in my life where I had that being informing me and we were doing a lot of work together, I was yearning so desperately for everyone else to actually come up into this consciousness and this expanded awareness. And I said to her at the time, I said, look, I want this for everybody. How do I do that? And she said, you do nothing. You just be in it. Just be in it. And what happens is it radiates and people start elevating anyway, because that's just what happens. And I did notice that actually happen amongst my group.
I know.
At the time, and I was like, "Wow, this is actually happening," and I didn't do anything. And she was right, of course. So it was.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, we want to share. Like, when you start having these experiences, you want to share, and you tend to get a little evangelical, which is always one of the first things. And if you start trying to tell everyone the experiences you're having, you're being evangelical, and to back off, because it's not about you sharing about what you've learned. It's about you integrating what you've learned into yourself so that you model it, and that you energetically, your energy is what is going to be communicating to people.
Yes.
And that's the hard part. Words are, we have to language things. Like when I speak to you, I'm languaging differently than if I'm speaking to someone who doesn't know anything about this.
Yes.
I will change the way that I language, because language holds frequencies. And so when I'm languaging to you, I am transmitting certain frequencies based on your level of consciousness. But if I'm speaking to someone with a different level of consciousness, I will use different languaging, because this level of languaging will scare them. Yes, but I could say something similar, but I can change the language and make it digestible to them. So the more that we learn how to use language, and then language as we go up and up becomes less and less important, because we begin to start transmitting. And what we do is, like, you and I will be speaking, and we will be using certain language to communicate what we're trying to communicate, but we're also transmitting telepathically to each other. It's not like my brain's going, oh, I hear what CJ's going, because frequencies don't have language to them. We translate some frequencies into language, but most frequencies they don't have languages. So I am transmitting to you, you are transmitting to me. We are getting information from each other without having to use words. And as we get further along in this global transformation, that ability to be telepathic with one another will become stronger, so that we don't have to use as many words, and the words can be used as almost like kind of trail marks.
I would say it's maybe going back to more of that instinctual sort of basis of connection and understanding that maybe we've lost by falling into the technology so deeply.
Yeah, well, we've lost a lot by falling to technology. Don't get me started at technology. I know it really helps us.
It does in some ways.
But I also know that it has really disintegrated a lot of our human frequencies, even when it comes to music. Back in the 60s, when people were listening to vinyl, there were all these frequencies that were part of listening to music. And that's why the music of a time was so transformational to the culture, because there were frequencies embedded in that music that was transformational, that was meant for the culture. When CDs came along, CDs compressed those frequencies. So we lost the frequencies that do most of the transformative work. And that's why much of music now is basically marketing. It's selling, it's selling things, because the transformational aspect of music has been lost because the frequencies have been compressed. So that has happened with technology a lot. We've lost our ability to tap into some of these higher conscious frequencies. And that's why nature is so important. I mean, if the one thing I tell people, just go out in nature, lay on the ground, sit next to a tree, communicate put your feet in like creek water, anything, because that is the one place that we can still get to the frequencies that will help us understand and communicate to ourselves about the organic nature of what we really are.
It's a point of grounding for sure, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lynnda, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and unfortunately, our time is up for this episode. And I've appreciated everything that we've shared here. It's been wonderful having you on the show, and I've got a whole list of information that I've got regarding places that I can send people. But is there anything that you'd like to share with the audience about finding you and contacting you that you'd like spoken?
No, I'm actually in the process of kind of closing off some of my social media. I'm really feeling that I don't want to go out screaming at people that much anymore. I'm going to be creating a portal called Wisdom Keeping, which is not ready yet. I'm still stumbling my way through it.
Yeah.
But that will be the place. Wisdomkeeping.com will eventually be the place. You can reach me at lyndapollio.com right now, which is where my book is.
Yeah.
And I have another website called thewishingbowl.com. It's another kind of crazy story for the day. I was channeled this frequency product called the Wishing Bowl, which is all about helping people make wishes in their lives. So you can reach me through that. I'm on Instagram. I've shut down my Facebook. I've shut down my Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn. But, reach out to me in one way, shape, or form. And I really, truly believe that if we're supposed to be connecting to each other, that resonance will find each other. And I'm really looking forward to, really connecting to people that are on this path. And I'm creating a whole new coursework on wisdom keeping and on the whole awakening process, because I think so many people are going through such struggle now and having, all these people are depressed and suicidal, and I don't think they really realize that they're having an awakening. And I want to help them find the place that they can say the way they're feeling and not feel like they've lost their marbles, or feel like they're failing in the world, because there's a new world coming, and maybe that's why you're here. You're not here to participate in the world that has been around for eons now. You're here to participate in the world that we're making the shift to, this global transformation. So hold on,
just hold on,
connect into your, hold on and connect to your conscious community, and connecting to me and connecting to CJ and all the people that are here to help and support, because we're all in this together, and we're, we really want to create the next beautiful thing.
Yeah, perfect. That's an excellent ending. Thank you so much. So it's good having you on, Lynnda. And as I said, I'll put all that information into the show notes. And
thank you.
And I look forward to seeing how your wisdom keeping portal comes out. And thank you so much for your time.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know. I'm hope to have it done by the fall sometime.
Excellent. Okay, then. Thank you so much. All right. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Well, it was a pleasure having on Lynnda and her stories of spirituality and consciousness, and revealing some more information around her book, which I think would be an excellent read by the sound of it. Trusting the Currents. I mean, that's a very, very tight title, and even that just little message in itself, trusting the currents. That's pretty much basically what we all need to hear right now. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to the next episode and seeing you then. All right, bye for now.